my bed to the floor. 5, 6, 7, 8. Will today be rough or will today be great? 9, 10, 11, 12. Lately I've been going through hell. 13, 14, 15, 16. Today's the day. Are you coming? Are you sick of being normal? I'm sick of being average. I'm sick of being mortal. I'm about to be a savage. I see a lot of things that I want, I will have them. I got a new mindset that I just established. I'll march through the cold with the nails on the pavement. I'll shovel that coal just to get out the basement. My story will be told, helping others make changes. I'll be so bold, they will watch in amazement.
Am I gonna face it? Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start over? I keep waiting. Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time to take it. Am I gonna face it? Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start over? I keep waiting. Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time to take it.
Foot up on the pedal, pushing hard to the metal. Make a deal with the devil. Channel rage through my vessel into something that is special. Energy of a rebel, going up a level. I just wanna be greatness. I could feel changes, turn a new page and tie up my laces. I will be the bravest, break out of my cages. I will not be nameless, I will not be aimless.
Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start over? I keep waiting. Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time to take it. Am I gonna face it? Am I gonna chase it? Am I gonna start over? I keep waiting. Time is limited, quickly fading. Get my mind right, it's my time to take it.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? Welcome back to the Locked In Podcast, episode 206. Just want to welcome back to the podcast Nichole Harris. Nichole, thank you for joining tonight. Appreciate you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Thank you for your time. And Rich, what's up, brother? Rich is going to help me host this one tonight. So, Rich, appreciate you jumping back on, brother.
What's up? Pleasure to be here. As always, you already know.
Yes, sir. So Kandyce, I actually just texted. She said she's gonna hop on before we're done, but she got home a little late and she's got the kids and everything. So they're kind of wrapping up, eating dinner and stuff. So she's gonna be on in a little bit. So she'll be here. So we'll have Kandyce on shortly too. Yeah, tonight's topic, guys, kind of how me and Rich, I think it was 201 or 202, where we kind of talked, men's leadership in families, in purpose, mission, well-being, overall kind of through faith, through God. We talked a little bit about that a few weeks back. So now we're just going to talk on the women's perspective too. We'll have Nichole and Kandyce in here to talk about their experiences. Obviously, men and women, they both play roles, right? And I always say that y'all women keep us men grounded for sure. So, we both have strengths that we bring to the table for sure in society and families, workforce, all different areas, right? And me and Nichole were actually talking about this, we essentially, nobody really needs anybody, right? Self-reliance is very critical, but in ways too, we are definitely social creatures. We're built and wired that way. So men and women kind of come together. And so in a weird way, it's like we need each other, but we at the same time, obviously, we don't need each other too. Self-reliance is very critical. But yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about this tonight. Like I said, it's episode 206. Before we hop into it, guys, if you are watching on YouTube, you're not already subscribed, make sure you click that subscribe button. and hit that notification bell to turn notifications on, because we release new episodes every single week, either related to personal development or sports, majority of personal development. So if you like that type of content, make sure you subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, I'm assuming you're already part of the community, so thank you for that. Still give us a like, comment down below if you see something you want to chat, you want to chime in here tonight. Appreciate that. We'll put your comments on the screen if they're on YouTube. On Facebook, I'll be monitoring. We can't throw them on the screen, but I will bring them up here in the live. All right, so like I was saying, we'll just we'll jump in. Nichole, you're the only one here right now, but Kandyce will be here shortly. But
that's a familiar feeling.
Yeah. I don't want you to feel like
No, it's all right. It's all right.
We did it episode 200. It was like 3 or 4 guys against you. It was like a battle royale.
It was brutal, man. It was brutal. It's all right.
Yeah, I had fun. Come on, we got.
I bet you did have fun.
I bet you did. It's conversation. However much we disagree, I feel like it's a good thing to have disagreement. I think even how our government is built, like it's supposed to be an element of people clashing, in order to get things done. That's the only way you really can get things done. If you just do things one way, it's kind of whack, so it's good to hear a different perspective. Really appreciate you being on, Nichole.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I agree.
Those conversations are essential. If we don't have constructive conversations, it's like we don't really that's the key right there. Like constructive conversations without people like who are arguing or getting defensive. Like it's just people coming together trying to understand each other's points of view, which is that's really, really critical. We need more people who are willing to do that and have those conversations, because so many people, they just get so defensive. Like if they're stuck in their point of view, that they essentially get to the point where they tune the other person out, that they don't even want to hear what that person has to say. And like, that's not beneficial to anybody. You might hear something for somebody's perspective. You're like, oh, wow. Like not even have thought about that. That kind of really allows you to understand from someone else's side. It will be like me and Rich, like coming on here tonight and then talking about the women's perspective, just being mad. Like that would make no sense at all. Like, I mean, because how can we put ourselves in women's shoes and act like we've walked in a woman's shoes, just like women have not walked in men's shoes? It makes, what I mean? It would make no sense. But in terms of just, we can start anywhere with this, Nichole. I mean, in terms of it could, family, workforce, anything like that. What's your perspective? I'll just keep it pretty general. Overall, like, what's your experience with what's your perspective from a woman's standpoint, like on? I'll start, like workforce, because I know like that's challenging, right? Like a lot now, like there's a lot of, compared to, decades and decades and decades ago, women's experience in the workforce. I know you're a hustler. I know you're a go-getter. I know you work hard. Just from your perspective there, what's your experience like? I'd say like in the workforce as a woman.
Workforce is tough.
Yeah.
My work experience comes from 2 different angles, right? So not only just being a woman, but being a Black woman as well. Our experience is just a little bit different, right? In terms of how people see us, what the attitudes and or judgments that we get. So like, for instance, some people will automatically get aggressive with me with certain issues because they assume that I'm just going to automatically be aggressive. So they already come to the gate to the conversation like, well, this is how it's going to be. And it's like, oh, okay. But for me, not just on, from a working aspect, I approach things with empathy. I always have. I think that's the best way to kind of get through to people. So if someone's coming to me like that, there is something below the surface. I feel like when anyone comes with an emotion before like a fact, there's some underlying something, and you can't understand what that is and fix the problem if you don't listen to them, right? But to that point, it does kind of suck, right? Because I do come to get a job, and someone who doesn't look like me, who probably will have the same issue, won't get that same kind of response, right? So that in itself is difficult. But it's just kind of tiresome, especially with again, being a Black woman. We take on a lot of responsibility within the household, like emotional responsibility. I'm also the oldest of a lot of kids. People kind of lean on you. It's not just people at work that kind of lean on you, right? They not only lean on you for the physical job work, right, but they also lean on you emotionally. We have this kind of like, not just Black women, but women in general have this kind of like nurturing. This is what we do, right? But then that also comes with emotional labor, right? So people come to you with their problems. People come to you with their frustrations. So then they kind of trauma dump, right? So now I'm dealing with trauma dumping at home. I'm dealing with trauma dumping with my friends, with my siblings, and then I come to work, and now I'm getting extra labor because they see that I'm doing a good job, because I have to do a good job, because that's my job. So they give you more stuff. Then they throw the emotional labor on you too, right? So it's a little bit more that people kind of don't see or understand. And it's like people assume that because you have a sit down job or you work in an office, that means it's going to be easier for you. And it's not. So it's just, it is what it is. You just go with stride. But those are kind of the things that we as women deal with behind the surface that isn't really talked about.
Wow. I feel like it's more like mental, like you're mentally exhausted, if that makes sense.
Every day, mentally and emotionally. Hi.
Hey, how are you? Sorry, I loved everything you said. I just wanted to just add that on because being in the office, a lot of people think that you're doing like easy work because you're not doing like labor, but mentally it's like exhausting and it weighs a lot on you. So I just wanted to like agree with you on that, on everything you said.
Yeah, sure. And office politics, right? That's a lot of,
yes.
I think that's the reason why a lot of men aren't working in the office as well. It is not really because, it's not always because they're bored sitting in the office. It really is like a mental like game. Like it really is like you gotta say a certain thing a certain way, you gotta write your emails a certain way, you gotta address certain people. You think of 48 laws of power, you can't outshine the master. Like you have to really like it's just a way you gotta move, and you gotta retrain yourself to be completely different when you're in the workforce. And again, to her point, Kandyce's point, it's a lot of mental and emotional energy every single day.
That's a good, both of you make great points there. Wow, I never really looked at it like that. Wow, yeah, like that makes a lot of sense, like the emotional labor side of it for sure. Like, yeah, I think it's common, right? That a lot of people look to women as like nurturing. Oh, they'll listen. So like you said, the trauma dumping going on inside the workplace. So not only are you getting that at home, you're getting it in the workforce too. So not only are you required to do a certain task or a job, but then you got to deal with that emotional labor. That makes a lot of sense. So I can imagine just how emotionally exhausting that is. And from the workforce politics side of it for sure. Yeah, I feel like or just workplace politics. I think that like a lot of people who work in the offices, right? Like they have to put on like a certain type of persona, right? Or you have to act a certain way. People like have like such pointless, like what do you say? Like the water cooler talk. People go to the water cooler and like you just have such pointless surface level conversations. It's just like, and you're kind of forced to have those conversations that like you're like, I don't even care to have these conversations. Like, hey, how's the weather outside? Hey, did you catch this last night? Like it's just like surface level. Like that's one thing I will say. Like I work remote, but I know at some point I'm going to be working in offices and stuff like that again, hybrid, whatever. But I don't miss that for sure.
No. And like, so when you're like in school, right, they tell you, when you work really hard, you'll be able to achieve whatever. That's bullshit. Okay. It's not just the working hard, because when you work hard, they're going to give you more work. Usually the hardest working person is not the one that gives a raise. Again, it is politics. You got to rub elbows with the right person. You got to know the right person. It usually is the kiss ass that gets the promotion. It's not the one that works really, really hard. Unless he's working really, really hard. And not that that's always the case. But there's a certain way you got to move. And usually the person that moves up is the person that people like. Not so much that they're the best person.
The favoritism. Yeah.
There's an author and a guy I've been following for a long time, Corey Wayne. He always says this is something that always sticks with me. He says you don't always get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. So a lot of times people also don't understand that that's a skill too, because it takes more. You might be the hardest worker in the room, the whole entire office, the whole corporation. But if you don't know how to articulate or negotiate certain things or make yourself stand out a certain way too. I do agree that there's definitely workplace spots like this happens a lot where you have to be a kiss ass. Definitely agree with that. But also there's more things that go into just working hard. A lot of people don't know how to negotiate or articulate certain ways, and they could miss opportunities that they were very deserving of.
I think it's a lot of people don't know their worth, honestly. Or they don't have the experience to negotiate what they should get or how to have the conversation. Sometimes if they're entry level, a lot of people don't think that's a topic to talk about, even though they might be really good or they might have the best experience, especially being a newcomer. How do you start that topic? And again, a lot of people do not know their worth, or they don't have the right resources or tools to start that topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I love company. I agree with that. Yeah. Like a lot of people don't know how to go about, right? Like they don't how do I, if I'm looking to promote, grow from within a company or an organization, how do I go about that? I like, not all companies are doing this, but I like that there are more companies now, working with personal development. So they have different things to really dive into employees' personal growth so that they can reach those milestones. Let me just ask, from experience with I know you were both two hardworking ladies. In your careers, have you ever worked with companies that look into your personal growth or anything like that, or maybe you currently are do the companies you work with look to promote personal growth or personal development?
Yeah.
Okay. It was
I mean, they do. I think one of the biggest issues is most companies do have something along that lines. They just don't promote it. So they'll have certifications that you can get, or they'll pay for college, or they'll send you somewhere. They have it in the budget for them to send you somewhere to give you secular education, but they just don't let people know. So people don't know that that's available to them unless they ask.
I agree with you. Or they promote it, but they don't really, I don't know, they don't really help you out. I feel like they promote it to make it seem like their company is good, like it's a benefit, hey, this is what we offer for our employees. But when it gets down to business, it's not available or you can access it. That's how I feel in certain companies.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to that favoritism when you're trying to, have that growth. If they favor someone or the person who likes to kiss ass, those are mainly the people I feel like sometimes are getting those promotions.
Definitely. That's a tale as old as time. There's just always somebody. I've seen it too. Just in terms of people who are either snitches or kiss asses, and they're just looking to kind of climb their way that way. And it's
the snitches. Yeah, the snitches are the worst ones. Those are the ones that don't pay attention, that want to pay attention to your every move. It blows my mind, honestly, that people have enough time to focus on other people and what they're doing instead of just focus on your work. Be a team player.
Yep. At the end of the day, I'm here to, whatever your job role is, you're here to solve a problem or do whatever you're hired to do, and then do your job and leave. And hey, at the end of the day, we're all getting paid too. So it's that's definitely a factor too,
And I felt maturity, if you've been in the work field for a couple of years and you're older, that growth, you learn to keep to yourself, be a team player, and, do your work the best of your ability. And then if you're looking for that promotion, work harder, communicate that with your leadership, and then go from there.
100%. 100%.
My thought on that also is, I miss working from home. I understand.
He works for the city, so now they got to go in 5 days.
Oh yeah. One thing too, sometimes people need to leave, and I think people get so stuck at a company and they're wishing and praying and hoping for things to change or for them to get a promotion. And sometimes you end up missing your blessings because, now you done dedicated 3-4 years at this job and you're not going to get another promotion. You're not going to get a promotion anytime soon when you could have went somewhere else and started growing there. I have a couple of friends like that, and it's like, I can't stay in my job. I'm not blah, 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 blah. I only get 2% extra raise a year. It's like, okay, it's time to go. They're like, no, I'm gonna hang in there a little bit longer. No. No, we don't have time. So inflation is not waiting for nobody. Okay.
I noticed that, like, my mom is 65 years old, and back in their day, it was really important to like have a tenured in the company, like stay there for a long time. But the new way that I noticed, like a lot of people that are younger than me in their 20s, they're staying at jobs for like anywhere from a year to 2 years, and if something is better, a better offer, they're leaving. So like all that does not matter. Like people are go-getters now to like they're looking for the jobs that are going to give them the good benefits to have that life work balance, and more pay. And it's crazy how back in the day to the new times now, people are go-getters. And some people, like you said, they do get stuck and they complain instead of, I feel like some people just need to take the reality that you're not going to get that promotion or it's not working out for you, and to like go outside the box and not be afraid and see what else is out there.
Absolutely. And two things to your point, like one, even back then there was an incentive, right? You would get a pension. We don't get those now.
Yeah.
You stay in a job
very few. Yeah.
Yeah, you stay in a job for 10, 20 years, you got that pension. At least that is some incentive, right? And you're like, okay, this is worth it. Now it's like I can get a 401k anywhere. I can transfer it over 403b or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, 403b, 401k.
I'm okay. What am I?
Yeah, I have a pension now. At my job, I have a pension. And I think that's the only thing that makes me stay, honestly, is the pension. But I feel like there's more to life than just staying somewhere just for the pension. There's a lot of ways to, like you just said, there's a lot of ways to get that money, honestly, and other jobs. But the pension is good, but it's just like, if you're not happy where you're at, I feel like life comes first. Mental comes first, and there's ways around making money and hustling. That's how I look at it.
And even if you go somewhere else, right? So I remember I was a farm tech. This was like 19, probably younger than that. Anyway, I came in making more than the lady that had been there for 9 years. When she found out how much I made, she was upset. Justifiably so. I was making like $3 or $4 more than she was, and just coming in. And she was way more experienced than I was.
All the time,
Yes, I had to happen to me. Yes, and I was a telemetry tech, and the older women were mad at me in cardiology, and they were mad at me. They were mad, like asking questions that they don't need to ask. But I can understand the frustration. Like, you've been here for 10 years, and here this new person comes, and they're making more money than you. They were mad. They were pissed.
I've seen it happen. Yep, I've seen it happen. I know. When I worked before I was in my current career, like at Lowe's, that people would come in making more money than like the guys who have been here like all this time. And in my company now, I work in finance, so I can see everybody's salary. I can see the CEO's salary. I can run this one report, and I can see everyone in the company's salary. So like, that's like bad. Like that's what I said. I'm like, that's like an out of sight, out of mind thing. I don't want to look at those things. If people saw during COVID that like the executive teams were getting like double salaries, and people were like literally leaving. They're like, yo, where this company's going in like a they wound up evening out, but like they like it was COVID, like it was tough times for like pretty much all companies, and like you're over here giving yourself, the whole executive team doubled their salaries. Like it's just like, it's enough to, when people can see that type of stuff, probably not it's not a good movie anyway, ethically, but when people can see that type of stuff, it's going to make people want to leave, especially when they're paying no bonuses for anybody else or no raises for anybody else. But yeah, y'all doubled your salaries.
Or no overtime.
Yeah. That's another thing. But that's that's for sure. You see that happen a lot. But Yeah, that's crazy. You see people.
Some of those companies, Steve, that you talk about, like who are like promoting self-growth, a lot of them either use their money for a lot of that stuff and they can't get bonuses because of that, or on top of that, like they use that as a bargaining chip to say why they won't pay you more. Like they'll be like, they'll bring all the attention, like, oh, we offer you this and that and that. And it's like, you know, but meanwhile, they're not paying you your fair compensation, you know, in terms of money, in terms of benefits, but they have all these other things that they can promote and they can stamp it as new and innovative. But I know someone who's in a situation like that right now where they're getting paid like okay, but they know they should be getting paid more for what they do and they're not. And then every time that person probably, you know, has a conversation about what they put into the job, hey, we offer this self-growth tool, you can do it, you can use it, and it will, once you get this certification and that certification, knowing it's going to take a while to get that certification, or and obviously, you know, sometimes you need some of those certifications, specifically for people like project managers, maybe it's a PMP or something like that. But you know, when you come to the table with years and years of experience, and also put in years into a company, you expect to be promoted and compensated fairly. So sometimes they come with the excuses loaded and ready when it's time to talk about, you know, that milestone, that year milestone where you're looking for a promotion, you know.
They breadcrumb you. They try to they keep you there enough to, you know, believe in it, and that it takes time, and then it's just like a breadcrumb. Like they're feeding you breadcrumbs to keep you there, but, you know, not enough to promote you. I do like organizations too that will reevaluate your salary. So like I know some companies, what they'll do is, you know, every year they'll take a look at whatever the role that each person's in. They'll do a competitive like analysis against like competitors and stuff, and then whatever, like they'll do an average, and like if whatever the average salary is, if you're making less, I've seen companies do that too, where they'll bump your salary up and stuff, or everybody in those certain roles get their salaries bumped up. I think that's a good metric that for people, you know, like more companies should do things like that. They like I think more companies should.
Absolutely.
You know, that would be ideal, but not every, you know, well, a lot of companies, they don't care about that. They're just saying it's if it's all about money, they're going to do what they can to save money. So, but
I mean, when you think about money though, right? So it's got to cost y'all money to keep hiring people, and this revolving door, right? Of people, you're losing your best people to the competitor because you don't want to give them a raise, but you're spending more on the new employee, and then the employee after that. I'm going through that right now in my department. That's why it's pissing me off, because we keep losing people because they don't want to pay people what they're worth. So these are professional people with bachelor's and master's degrees, and y'all want to pay them pennies, and then get mad when the work isn't getting done. But, you know, they keep saying the same thing. I could understand if it was like, you know, maybe one person, maybe two person. But if we have interviewed 3 people and all 3 people have said they're not taking the job because we're not paying enough, there should be a red flag going off. And 2 times people have gone into that position and left. What does it get to the point where y'all are tired of spending a salary's worth of hiring and losing people? You know, when does it start to financially not make sense anymore? You know what I mean? You're the finance guy.
Yeah, it's a waste. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of time. Like, you know, people are going through, like you said, the interview processes, and they're turning the job down because you're not paying enough. So it's like at the end of the day, not only are we wasting resources, we're going through the interview process, we're wasting time. And Kandyce actually put the comment here. She says, "Same here. We have a high volume of workload because of it." Yeah, and then what you do is you throw the workload onto other people because you're not filling those positions, and that's a problem. Right.
And then those people leave.
Yeah.
And then those people leave because they're stressed out.
Yep, exactly. And then the workload just, you know, keeps piling up. It's almost like you never get caught up because it just keeps becoming too much. It's crazy. But I I do think there needs to be more personal growth types of things where people follow through, not like Rich said, where they breadcrumb you and stuff. It needs to be legitimate personal growth where they can help people. I do appreciate companies who do promote from within, but like honestly allow employees that are deserving to have opportunities. You know what I mean? Not just people who kiss ass, people who actually are deserving of opportunities and notice that hard work and allow them those opportunities to grow from within. I think more people would stay at organizations that way. And like Kandyce was saying, a lot of people stay somewhere 1 to 2 years and they leave. But, obviously like things like pensions play a role. But if there were opportunities to grow from within, a lot of people don't want to stay in the same role for the rest of their life. Some people do, and some people are comfortable with that. And hey, if you can live off whatever your salary is, hey, but I think the majority of people want to grow within a company. Most people want to, evolve and not stay in the same role for 30 years, So more things like that. But I think like men and women together, like in the workforce, like you were saying, like there's like workplace politics, different things. I think men and women both bring, things to the table, right? We can both be leaders in the workforce for sure. And I think, women I always say this, I always believe this, women are more intuitive than men. We have certain strengths, but I always say women, a woman's intuition is usually better than a man's intuition. So like, hey, there's certain strengths that women can bring to the table, certain strengths that men can bring to the table, but the workforce is, it's a lot more mixed nowadays compared to like 50 years ago, right, where it was like heavily like male dominated. So we just need to learn to kind of work together. I think that's how we look at it, is it's a team effort. Everybody's trying to grow, everybody's trying to come together, and yeah, we can all benefit off of each other's strengths.
Yeah, I think I work in healthcare, so okay. Automatically there are way more women in my field than men, and there are a lot of women in leadership positions. I think the C-suite at this point is more women. So yeah, but we also have we have a different set of challenges. Like here's one that nobody talks about: menopause, right? So it's something that literally happens to all women, and it's kind of like it is downplayed, the severity of it, right? So we kind of reduce it to just hot flashes, right? But it's so much more than just hot flashes, right? So there is like some people get chronic pain, some people get fatigue, some people the hot flashes itself, like there are some people get like depressed, some people get extreme anxiety and or angry. Like there's a lot of hormonal changes that kind of happen, and there isn't a lot of support because people again downplay she just hot. It's not just she's like hot, like she is like, did you see the video of the lady, the steam was coming up off of her head, like that type of, yeah, she was sitting at a game. She's like, she didn't have hair, but the steam was, you could literally see it raising from her head. So imagine you literally feeling like you're on fire. Like that extreme. So we don't have enough in place for because we women are different, right? We don't have things in place. So we are expected to do the same job as a man would with these issues that we have, right? What about women with kids, right? There's this whole push of women not having babies anymore, but it's like, what are you putting in place for us to be able to have these kids and give them the life that they need to have? Because if I'm working 40 hours, that baby is going to be in daycare, and they only pay for 6 weeks. Some people don't even get that. My cousin didn't even get 6 weeks. She got 2. So she was supposed to get up out the bed after having all these stitches, drop her baby, her newborn baby, out with a sitter, and then get back to work. You know what I mean? So it's like terrible. We don't have good resources for moms. And the whole system is just not set up for mothers to thrive, even if there's a 2-parent household. So,
right,
they're screwed.
Working. Yeah, if both people are working, that's, I do like that now that they offer paternity leave, which used to never really be a thing, so that the man, you know, boyfriend, husband can be there with his girlfriend, the wife, or, you know, the mother throughout the process as well. Not all companies do, but a lot of companies are more privy to that. But I agree with you. I think the system is really, really, honestly fucked. It's definitely not it because when you think of it from a practical standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. Like, because if someone can't afford childcare, you know, how does this happen? How does this practically happen? You know, that you have to go back to work in 2 weeks. It's like, okay, well, now who's going to watch my child? You know, not everybody has family members that can jump in and do that. It's a lot to think about, for sure.
Yeah. It's like, sure. It's extreme. Well, I don't have kids, but I'm like, I play the aunt role. So again, with the nurturing, usually when you don't have kids, you're always surrounded by kids because you get other people's kids, your best friend's kids, your auntie. I mean, well, I do. Anyway, that's another story for another day. I have a young uncle, the one that's younger than me. But anyway, but everybody has kids, and because you have free time, it's like, can you grab such and such from school, or can you take them here over the weekend? So it's like you kind of see the struggles. You don't experience them personally, but you kind of hear the stories and see the struggles. And then that, you know, moms and dads are just burnt out, right? Yeah. So it's not like we have that village before when people had 14 kids, but Susie across the street got 14 kids too, and so does Nana up the street. So you can kind of have this community where everybody's kind of looking out for each other. It's none of that. So you're kind of doing it by yourself, and you know, if you don't have the money, what do you do? And God forbid you make just a little bit over 50,000, then you can't get childcare free either. You can't go through like CCIS. So you're literally screwed.
The thing that bothers me though is like, I feel like this particular society rewards people for coming up short or not reaching their potential, because like, I'll give you a prime example related to this topic, right? Like when I was in high school, you know, Steve, I went to Lincoln. Nichole, I went to Abraham Lincoln High School, and we had a daycare attached to our high school. Why can't when and those were for pregnant teens, you know, and rightfully so, right? But you know, because they need that support too. But why can't our working class folks, our people who are trying to achieve and build themselves up to achieve something greater, why can't they get something similar? Like, why can't they get something to support them? You know what I mean? And I feel like, you know, the less money you make, the more you get rewarded. The government tries to almost become like a crutch to you, almost tries to keep you in that place dependent on them.
Yeah. That's a great point, Rich. That's a great point. You know what? It would be
There's so many stories.
Oh no, sorry, Nichole. You can go ahead.
No. Go ahead. You were talking before me.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I'm just gonna right back to you. I was just gonna chime in real quick and just say, it would actually kind of solve two things, right? You know, it would allow, you know, them to, if they had daycares at you know, work for like, you know, parents, you know, be able to people to watch their kids. Not only would it allow, you know, parents to have that stress relief off of them, but it would also put jobs into the economy too, more jobs into the work. You know what I mean? Like, because that would provide jobs. Like if you have a daycare where people can work and watch other people's children, like while they're at work, it would. You actually see the gyms too now. You know, the gym I go to, they have daycare. Yeah. You know, so you know, the parent can work out, go to the gym, and be able to drop the kid off, and they have people there during certain hours. So usually, you know, after 5 o'clock and then like early in the morning, they'll have childcare and stuff. So why can't we do this in the workforce too? Sorry, Nichole, I'll go right back to you.
No, you're right. I agree. No, I was just going to Rich's point where there have been like people like on documentaries talking about how they will not, they can't move up in their work because if they do, it'll cut off their childcare. Because once you hit a certain amount, like, you know, it is what it is. There was a dad, he was saying like, if I make over like $12, like my job offered me a raise, but if I make over $12, I get my insurance for my kids cut off. He's like, and I can't afford it. So I just have to stay at the pay that I'm at. And I beg them not to give me a raise because I literally can't afford to get a raise. Like, and the stories like that are across the board. It's
wild.
Literally like you get like you said, you get punished for moving up. Like the middle class literally gets punished the most. Lower middle class gets punished the most.
Most definitely. I definitely agree. And the crazy part is that it's not even just an aspect, of convenience. It's an issue of mental health as well, because imagine a child being able to grow up closer to their parents. Their parents work all the time, right? But if there's a daycare, if there's something, they could coordinate seeing their kids at lunchtime. Like when they have lunch, they can coordinate the kids having lunch at the same time. And you can kind of allow the parents and the children to spend more time together that way if they're working all the time. So, I mean, it's so many avenues, there's so many different ways that we can do this thing. But I don't even think that a lot of companies or the government itself really cares about that. You got other governments in places like Switzerland, Sweden, who they offer a lot of more benefits. Do you know that most of these European countries offer a lot more benefits in the workplace, time off, and like you said, maternity and paternity leave, and it's like I think Nichole, you said your sister only got 2 weeks or something like that.
My cousin,
they offer months off for that, and more holidays, more PTO, and I know this because someone very close to me works where the company is international, right? So they have people from different places working from like Bulgaria, and then they're working Canada, and then there's the United States, and they sat there and they compared. Well, these people get more PTO. It's the same company, but people in the other countries get more PTO than the American workers do. Why is that? You know what I mean? And it's a lot of answers in the way that our government's structured. The laws here versus there have a lot more intention towards mental health. The mental health of the workers, the mental health of the general population is something that's serious in those countries. Whereas over here, we're just seen as either you're someone who is a producer, manufacturer, or you're a consumer. You know what I mean? It's very, we're in a capitalist society, so everything's driven by money and income and profit. It's not driven by, overall well-being or mental health. So yeah, a lot of problems in our society stem from just that.
Yeah,
you're right.
Kandyce said the benefits and better food over in Europe too, over in the European countries compared to here.
That's a whole nother that food topic. You need to have a whole podcast about food here versus
food is no joke
everywhere else, because
it's crazy.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, and what it does for our bodies.
Why we have the same food? Yeah, why do we have the same like food items and then like half the ingredients in Europe compared to all the additives in the United States?
Yeah, it's really sad, honestly. And when we were younger, we didn't know anything about it. And when you're older, you're like, wow.
No, it's like when our parents were younger, they thought smoking was okay. You saw the commercials on TV. It was cool to smoke cigarettes and stuff. And now, like, it's not even like legal to have, TV, commercials on cigarettes anymore. But back then, people thought, oh, it's okay. But we're learning things like crazy now. Like the internet has made things a lot more. You can access a lot of information now. People are not just consuming things completely blind anymore. So
I have a question for the ladies in the podcast. In the workforce, right? Have you ever been in an environment where y'all felt like, oh, and this is going to be a hot button issue, but somebody got to say it. Somebody got to ask this question. Have y'all ever been in an environment where y'all felt overly like someone was trying to sexualize y'all when y'all were just trying to go to work and go home? Like not superior, but someone who is in charge or someone who's tried to put you into a situation of a quid pro quo thing. I just want to know, because I haven't been in your shoes, but I know it's out there. I know a lot of people don't talk about it. Stuff is swept under the rug, especially if anyone's benefiting. But have y'all been put in a situation where someone tried to make you feel like you had to be a certain way in order to get a promotion, or have you been sexualized in the workplace, especially as Black women in this society?
All the time.
Always. I actually left a job because of it. I was sexually harassed, verbally, um, little touch. It was just inappropriate behavior, and the company didn't actually do anything for me to help me. It was more like sexist, and they like favored him over me because of, I guess, like how long he's been there, but he constantly got in trouble with customers and they still took his side. They didn't do anything to protect me. And I could just say, like, just over experience of other jobs, men can be very sexual, and not even for just a promotion. Like, they just do it, and they can be married and they'll try to, be sexual in the workplace. But I did leave a company because of sexual harassment. And I feel like if it was and I know this might be something not to bring up, or maybe it needs to be talked about, but I feel like if it was a white woman, something would have been done compared to me being a Black woman.
I just received an inappropriate text message from a married man that I worked with 2 days ago. So it might have been yesterday. So
yeah, I believe it. It's vicious.
I'm just so used to it. He's married. His wife just had a kid, maybe like last month or the month before. And he wants to see, what did he say? I would love to see how wild you are outside of work, whatever the hell that meant. And then I said, that's inappropriate. I said, what if your wife saw? And he said, oh, he said, that's something that I'm willing to deal with, or something along them lines. Like he didn't care.
That's wild.
So, I mean, this is something like I was dealing with sexual harassment at work before I even kind of realized what it was, because I was a people pleaser and I was afraid to set boundaries. So yeah, inappropriate touches, inappropriate things said, like, it's something that happens all the time. What was it like last week? I said something to the security guard, like something about his food, and he was like, yeah, I eat a lot of things, and just looked at me up and down. Like, that's like not that it is normal or okay, but I'm just so used to dealing with it. It's just like, this just is what it is. If I went to charge every guy that in the workplace that ever did something or said something inappropriate, they wouldn't even believe me at a certain point. Like,
yeah.
So
this is a good question Rich brought up with this, because like Rich said, we cannot put ourselves like in y'all shoes at all. But I've heard this a lot from, like, women have said this. I've heard crazy stories with like the sexual harassment things, to the point where like a dude was trying to kiss a woman's feet, like at work, like just crazy stuff. Like, I mean, like I think that's like over the top, but like everybody's different. Like just like unwanted touching, but I think it starts with like the unwanted touching stuff. That's where it starts, and then it gets worse and worse. If that person isn't held in check by the company, they think they can get away with these types of things, and that's when this shit gets really, really dangerous. Yeah.
Why do you think people, like, sorry to cut you off, Steve, like,
nah, you're good, man.
I got two questions associated with everything I just heard. First and foremost, y'all, I'm sorry that happened to y'all. That's wild. Completely unacceptable. My first question is, what do y'all think needs to be done from a woman's perspective? What do y'all think needs to be done in order for this to change?
think.
Women have to be believed, and it has to be taken more seriously, because what ends up happening is becomes this big investigation, right? If you do, let's just say you do move forward with it, and you got to relive it all over again, right? So then you got to say how he touched you inappropriately, where he touched you inappropriately, right? Then there's repercussions, right? So if you work together and you had some type of working relationship, that's now done, right? Which also leads to him telling other people and or turning other people against you, right? And it can easily been turned into a, oh, she took it the wrong way, right? So that's what usually happens with those type of things. Like, we're not believed. We read too much into it. He was just trying to be nice, and or that's just normal, or it's really not that serious. Just overlook it. You know what I mean? So when you do come forward, there's no serious repercussions, and then you get bigger blowback, because now you're looked at as the person who made a big deal out of nothing, and or his friends are like, oh, that's just how he is, and or it's never taken seriously. So unfortunately, it's a culture that has kind of grown into a monster until it gets to the point where it's so big and he's so egregious, where now he's like really sexually assaulting people, where he's like touching them or raping them or something like that. And it has to happen to multiple women. Like, it can't just be one woman that comes forward and say, he did this to me. It has to happen 3 more times for them to say, oh, there's a pattern here. Maybe we should do something about it. So I don't know.
That's a good point.
That is.
Start spraying them in the face with pepper spray. I don't look.
Yeah.
Violence first. I don't know, but
for me, because I experienced it and I actually left the company because of it. What sucks is that some women, I wouldn't say all, but some women can use it because they're mad at they didn't get a promotion or they didn't get something. Sometimes women lie about it, but I feel like majority of the times it's truth. But there's 3 sides: the truth, a lie. Wait, I'm already about to mess this up. What is it? The 3 is 3 truth is 3 sides. The truth.
Oh, your side, their side, and the truth.
Yeah, there we go. I got stuck. So for me, I would want like witnesses. Like, I feel like people seeing this guy be inappropriate towards me. And they seen how his work ethic is when it comes to, serving the customers. He was constantly getting complaints of his tone and his demeanor and his behavior. And like, they didn't take that in consideration of, oh yeah, his behavior is crazy. He has constant complaints. And then there's coworkers who have seen him talk inappropriate to me, said any, come close to me, put his hands on me, like just doing too much, and nobody came forward to support that. And not only that, I like when Nichole said for people to believe. Like when I reached out to HR and they were like, okay, what witnesses do you have? And so I had 2 people that sat in the same area as me, and I gave them their names. And I talked to my coworkers. I'm like, hey, did HR reach out to you? They said no. So that right there is like, they didn't even care to try to get information from other people. And if I didn't have my witnesses, right, there are still other people in the work area that saw his behavior that didn't want to like have a voice. They didn't want to speak up or anything. So I think they just need to have like more witnesses come forward when they see things, because a lot of people don't want to be involved in stuff. They're afraid. And I just feel like people should be more like brave and speak up for other people that are going through stuff, and that more companies have a system and where they can like, track the behaviors, like the patterns of someone's behaviors. Because I feel like sometimes sexual harassment can be someone who is, like outright, just a disrespectful worker, and they have constant complaints. I think they need to do more background check on people, because when I first got the job, they talk about how they do not take sexual harassment as a joke. Like, it is like it's not something to be played with. But when I brought that to their attention, they didn't want to answer to that. So it was pretty tough. But I just, like I said, I wish more witnesses came forward, and I just wish they did more, research on the person that I put the complaint on, because it was a really bad experience, and I've never experienced that before. So it's kind of hard because they make you think that you're the problem. They actually said that it was my fault that I provoked him to act that behavior because I didn't accept his advancements. So it was a pretty, yeah, it was a crazy situation. And I wouldn't wish it on nobody. And just in the work area, a lot of men are like that. They're just inappropriate and they don't care.
Well, I'm sorry you went through that. No one should ever have to go through anything like that.
Yeah, he had a wife. And I even brought it to his attention. Like when I would tell him to stop, I'd be like, you have a wife. How is your wife doing? To try to change the topic, and he would not care. Like he would not care. And I just found out that they actually let him go, from the company. But it just was like it took all that time for you to let him go. Like you didn't even believe me, but he had to get in trouble with more customers in order for him to be let go. Like they didn't really weigh it out. But thank you. I appreciate that.
Can we talk about how the biggest perverts are always married?
Always, because they're not happy in their relationship. They're not happy.
The worst perverts I have ever encountered in my life
have been married. Out there too, not just the women's but I was gonna say, men, what do we need to do to be better to stop sexualizing women in the workplace?
Yes, please, men, get it together. Control your hormones.
Comment, and any men who are out here watching, because I know we got a few on here. What do y'all need? What do we need to do to be better? Exactly, like to have some sexual discipline, like in the workforce, and stop sexualizing women, because it's crazy.
Control the hormones. Just control the hormones. Keep it in the pants.
Exactly. I'm sorry to hear y'all both went through this, because that's crazy. But I will say this, Kandyce, I'm happy that you're no longer working there, because that company just seems like has like the fact that they didn't back you or there was no one that came forward. You're better off that you're not working with that company.
Yeah, no, I wanted to stay there because I really had a passion for just customer service and everything. I just love helping people. And I wanted growth opportunity, and growth opportunity actually was presented. But I did not agree with their values and how they didn't, back me up. And they didn't help me at all. And it was real sexist, and I didn't like that at all. I didn't like it at all. And they really took his response over mine. So
I've heard this happen so many times, just with women who have said and it takes to the point where they're like, oh well, like even jobs will say, well, we need people, so they will literally let some of these men get away with doing these types of things. But it's like you said,
yes.
At what point does it become to the point where a woman gets raped or something happens because this behavior wasn't documented, nothing happened, nothing was reported? Why does it take it to get to potentially that point for something to happen? It's ridiculous.
Well, I've complained about his behavior to managers before, and they would always, it was just the main manager, and he would just say, you know what, I'll talk to him. Complained again, I'll talk to him, and then it would die down, and then it would start back up. And the manager told HR, she never complained about it. And it's just it's so important that you have a paper trail, and you document everything. And I learned the hard way because, again, Nichole, like you said, in the beginning, you don't know that you're being sexually harassed. Sometimes, I'm in la la land, everything la 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 la. I want to be friends with everyone. Hey, everybody, but just being nice. I was the new girl, and I was just trying to learn everything and being friendly with everyone. And some men will give you compliments. It's okay. It's all right. But not when they get into sexual. So I didn't even know until I had brought it up to someone's attention. They were like, yeah, that's sexual harassment. It's not appropriate, not professional at all. So
another thing, right? There is a problem in our society, right, where people don't understand, and just because we're talking about the sexual harassment from a woman's point of view, right? Not saying that women don't also do this, but there is a problem in our society that when a man presents himself in one way, let's say he's really nice, he's really kind, and he's really giving, and he makes great conversation, and he's really whatever, right? So he presents himself as this nice person, which he might be, but because he presents that as that person, people automatically assume that he also can't be an abuser and or someone who does a sexual harassment. They think, oh, because he's such a great guy and because he's nice to you and because he's good at his job and because he's a gentleman to his wife in public, that doesn't mean that he's also not trying to touch my butt when you're turning your back. So we have to get to a point in this society, like even like when it comes to celebrities, like nobody wants to believe that these celebrities do these horrible things because they put on these nice suits and they go to awards and they have so many friends. There's no way he's so nice. He just gave that woman a house. How could he, beat on that woman, or how could he be, a rapist? Two things would be true at the same time. They said Ted Bundy was the nicest person that you would ever meet.
Charming, charismatic, exactly.
And he was screwing dead corpses.
He was a sociopath.
Like doubling back until he couldn't screw him no more.
He was a sociopath serial killer. Exactly. It was.
So can we get past this?
I always say, how a man acts when eyes aren't on him, and in the dark when eyes aren't on him, will show his true integrity, his true character. Because it's like, people can put on fronts to a certain extent when people got eyes on them, or how they notice a lot of people are perceiving them so way. But how you act when all eyes aren't on you, it shows your true integrity and your character behind closed doors, you know what I mean? Or even just with relationships in your life, how people speak about other people when other people aren't around. You know what I mean? But that's the thing. It's like you said, somebody can come off as kind, somebody can come off as giving. But when eyes aren't on them, they can be a completely different person when other people aren't looking at them.
Yeah. And they can absolutely be kind to you, to their wife, to their mama, to somebody else. But they can absolutely be a menace and cruel and evil to somebody that they feel is beneath them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Or someone they feel as though they can take advantage of.
Yep. That's why I say, no matter just from the workforce perspective, I was always told, treat the janitor with the same type of kindness you would treat the CEO. It's true. But, we need to be better on the terms of just sexual harassment, all that stuff. It's ridiculous. It's like, that shouldn't, it's like, it's 2025 at this point. This should not be a thing. It's crazy. It's a shame. And that you just hear it. Like I said, a lot of it just gets swept under the rug because people just go, oh, that's how that person is. It's like, okay, well, that person needs to be better. That's like being married to somebody and be like, that's how I am. It's like, if you have negative qualities, you need to work on them. That shouldn't just be accepted. That's not universally accepted because you want to act a certain way. So you essentially justify it. That's just how I am.
Right. But this society doesn't hold certain behaviors accountable.
Exactly.
Certain behaviors, when I'll give you an example, when it comes to anything that has to do with things like the love of money or things, people will condone in the streets, unfortunately, and some of our communities, they condone doing things to get money, selling drugs to get money, and popular culture. And I'm not talking about any particular community, because if you look at it across the board, rock stars can do drugs and throw drugs into the crowd and do drugs with people, and it's cool. Rappers can sit around, do drugs with people, and it's cool. So anything that has to do with something that looks a certain way, right? In this particular subject, what Kandyce and Nichole are talking about is in the workplace, right? Where people are not calling out the BS because of possibly where the popularity of a coworker is, what they're presenting to other people that puts them on some type of social standing, where for some reason it's acceptable for these people to have this behavior, and it may be called out by one person, but because, as Nichole said, it's not called out by multiple women, or because this person has some level of protection within that organization, the behavior is never really confronted. So the behavior gets worse and worse until it really blows up. It seems like what she's saying is, until someone is really getting to that point where they are doing the R word, And unfortunately, for me, fortunately and unfortunately for me, one of my first clients in my internship was actually a woman who was going through workplace sexual harassment. And so I am grateful for y'all, and I'm sorry for everything that y'all have went through, but I'm grateful to hear your perspective because I'm continually learning about the experience of women. We have, why is it that we have mothers and grandmothers and sisters and daughters, and a lot of men we're not stepping up to learn more about their experience? This is the world that you're bringing your daughters into. This is the world that your mom has to be in, your grandma has to be in, your sister has to be in. So I think it's important to make the best attempt that we can to understand their perspective and the things that some of these women have to go through.
Agreed.
Appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much. It's deep.
Agreed. I was gonna say, and it's like some of these men, it's like they have to really think. It's like how they treat women. It's like, is this say they had a daughter? Is this the type of work? They'd be the same type of men that if a man tried to harass his daughter as she grows up, they'd be the first ones to say something, right? It's like, but then like don't take any accountability for their own actions. It's like you really got to think, if you had a daughter in this world, would you like how you're treating these women? Would you like your daughter to go through the same things? You know what I mean? A lot of these men have to kind of think about that. And to the marriage side of it too, I hear that all the time too. That it's always married men that are, not all the time, but like a lot of them are married men, which just kind of goes to the Christian belief. It's like a lot of people do not value the sanctity of marriage. Like marriage should be, you're in it for life. You're with that one person. People don't value it. Nowadays, people just get married to get married. And like the first sign of like, fear or something, they leave the marriage, or they'll just be out here cheating and completely unfaithful. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. People don't value it.
Agreed.
Mary said, sorry to hear about the experience you ladies went through. Absolutely horrible.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Nice. We got some comments over here too. George commented in. There's some comments from the beginning here. So said office work is hard, can be very challenging. Good to have a good job. Rubbing elbows, that's a good one. Work snitch. And then my guy Fran waved in. He said, took a break from work. One word, lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah. Go back and sue.
Lawyer. That's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know why I always hear though, like married men or majority of the time, always the ones who are. It's crazy.
And then it deters people like me, right? So I've been single for a while, happily, but it deters me because it's like, there's always there's like kind of this push online, like shaming women who aren't married into getting married. But what is it that I have to look forward to? Me getting a man for him to cheat on me once I get like 55 or 60 and he decides that, I'm not as youthful looking as I used to. So now I'm not as valuable. So now he feels as though he can go out and possibly bring me back an STD and or a baby. And you get what I'm saying? Like, what is what's the incentive here? You know what I mean?
Like that, did he really value you in the first place though?
Right. That's what you have to question.
But you don't know that until, yes, I get what you're saying. And to your point, no. But you don't really know that until you get in the thick of it, right? In the beginning, of course, people want to put their best foot forward. They're going to show you the sun, moon, and the stars. It's when things start getting hard and you have to say no to yourself and use self-control. Circumstances change. You get depressed, family members die, things get hard at work. Now you need an outlet. Things get tough between you. You're trying to find ways to communicate and it just doesn't seem like it's working. Exactly. When it gets rough, is that person going to wander and feel like it's okay because, hey, I'm the man. This is what we do. It's in our nature.
That's why
spread our seed.
a lot of couples. That's why the premarital homework is so important. I think a lot of people don't do this. You know what I mean? There like especially like I know we're all like, you know, in the church and everything like that, the church community, like meet with your mentors and everything in church and stuff like that, and have these have the hard conversations before you get married. I think that's really, really important. And a lot of people don't do this. They're like, I know some of the happiest couples, like they're the ones who did all the premarital homework up front, right? You know, they had the tough conversations with each other. There's a book out there too. It's called Non-Essential Conversations Before I Say I Do. I think that's a great book too. But like the couples, they can read that together and like ask the hard questions, take the quick, like, and still it doesn't mean it's going to deter someone from, you know, doing something, you know, down the line, but I think it would reduce the chances. So a lot of people don't do this and have those hard conversations with each other, because it's like you could be thinking you're marrying somebody who's like, oh, this person's all about me, they're great, and then like you realize like if they take these types of tests, y'all have these conversations, you could have maybe like husband and wife could have, or you know, man and woman could have realized that this person wasn't right for them. You know, like it's because you're right, it's in good times and bad. So there's gonna be tough times, relationships, marriages. There's gonna be times where the roads are gonna get rocky and there's gonna be a roller coaster. But it's like, how do you show up for your person in those tough times? That's the part. You know what I mean? That is the critical thing. How do you show up for one another when things get tough?
Yeah,
absolutely. So that's
and maintain that empathy and that respect.
Yes.
You don't have to agree with your partner. You don't even always have to like your partner. I promise there's going to be days where you don't even love your partner. Go away. Especially when you're really, really mad. You might hate them not for the whole day. Hopefully not. But even if still, are you still going to do the right thing regardless? Regardless of how you feel in the moment, are you going to do what's right? To your point, like you said earlier, behind closed doors. Be just simply for no other incentive, because it's the right thing to do.
Yep. Like when times get tough, it's like you have to think, are you guys going to have those tough conversations? And guess what? If those tough conversations don't work, are you willing to involve professional counsel for you guys to talk and work through? A lot of people don't want to work through them nowadays, and they'll just, like you said, they'll either be so quick to say, I'm getting divorced, or so quick to say, I'm going to go and see what else is out there. I'm going to go cheat. Let me hop on dating apps. Let me go to the bar. Let me go hit up this person. You know what I mean? Like people nowadays just want to run. They don't want to work on things. And that's
everything's a now society. Everyone wants gratification, right? Instant gratification all the time. You know what I'm saying? Even with dating, it's not even normal dating no more. You're just swiping. Everyone's swipe. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. And you just swipe left and right. And that's taking away the whole process of what it means to actually get to know somebody and sit down and see them as a person, even like as another human being. That's the basics of dating, and then to humanize. But it's like they found a way to dehumanize dating. You know what I'm saying? I'm not blaming if you swipe and use
those. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, I'm not coming at nobody. You know what I'm saying?
No, but that's a very good way to put it. It has dehumanized dating and people in general.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's definitely
because they're just faces.
Yeah, exactly. Just pictures and faces and yeah. So
in a paragraph.
Exactly.
It's right.
Exactly. We're just sexualizing over pixels on a screen. You know? It really is. It's kind of crazy.
Old pictures, doctored up pictures. Pictures from 10 years ago. That's not even them anymore.
It's just become such a sexual society. I mean, you can get porn on your phone like that nowadays. You know what I mean? You can OnlyFans, all the stuff that's going on nowadays. It's such a sexualized instant gratification society, which is really taken away, like Rich said, from the whole process of dating, really getting to know one another. Attraction is key, right? Like you obviously, you want to be physically attracted to someone, but like dating and being in relationships and getting married, it's a lot deeper than just physical attraction. There's a lot more that goes into it. So like you said, Nichole, when someone gets older and their looks fade, can you see yourself still wanting to be with that person when they, when they get older, like say like, hey, that person's not all dialed up and doesn't have makeup on. You want to wake up next to that person every day. It goes deeper than that. Yeah. Do you enjoy it?
I'll even go further. If you can't go, let's say there's a year where your partner is down and y'all can't have an intimate relationship.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Will you be able to survive that? Is that what your relationship is based on? Is it, can you still have fun with that person? Can you enjoy being around that person if that was not a factor? If that went away today or tomorrow? You know what I mean? Like how deep is it? Because some people use it as a filler. They don't really like their partner. It's just something to do. Instead of finding a hobby, going, taking a walk, figuring out, maybe doing archery or something, tic-tac-toe, let's just have sex. And it's just like,
because you could have insane sexual chemistry. You could have insane sexual chemistry with somebody, but at the end of the day, if you're using that to solve problems, then you have a problem. You have a bigger problem, because that relationship or that marriage is not going to stand the test of time. It's just not going to happen. I think this is actually our guy Josh Rich from our group. He said Josh Martin. It says it's definitely a lack of discipline and lack of self-worth of these men. For sure, Josh. Completely agree with you, bro. Completely agree with you. Lack of self-discipline, it's Rob actually said this on one of our podcasts before too. It's like just because you have options as a man and you're in a committed relationship or marriage, that's when it becomes the self-discipline of the man to be like, yeah, I could have options. I could have women that are trying to flirt with me, this, that, and the third. That's when it becomes the sexual discipline of the man to be like, I love my wife. I love my girlfriend. I don't need to look elsewhere. I'm committed to this one person. And a lot of times people just can't do that. They get so caught up in all this instant gratification. And guess what? They're the first ones that when they do step out of their marriage to be the ones that are boohooing and kind of like, because they have that grass is greener syndrome that they want to step out. And it's like you have a great person at home who like checks all your boxes. That's the person. And then you still, sometimes people just get caught up in this stuff. And it's, that's why I said try it. And it doesn't mean all people that have a relationship with God, but if you truly have a relationship with God, it keeps you grounded. It keeps you away from, what do they say? Rich, what do we call it? Like the worldly, a lot of this worldly temptations out here. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Because you have an obligation to something outside of yourself and outside of that, even that person. So even if that person is not a factor, you're going to do it because you got someone else that you're answering to. So it's kind of like an extra barrier, that threefold cord.
So if you put God first in your life, like if you put God, and God should be first in your life, God should be first, even over it, your wife and your kids are going to be there too, but God is always going to be first. You're going to live through God's divine will. So if you're living through God's divine will, you're not going to go out and do things like this. And that's the thing. That's the critical part, is that if you have God in your life and you have a really strong relationship with God, you're not going to want to do anything that, obviously God's going to frown upon, right? You're going to live in his will. You won't do these types of things. Stay close to God. Marius said, the society lacks respect and compassion. That's why there's so many problems. I agree with that.
And that's like number one on my list now. And that's like one of the first questions that I ask if I'm dating. It's like, what is your definition of empathy and how do you apply it to your life? You'll be surprised how many guys will not even know what empathy is and don't apply it in their lives at all. And it's just something that simple, because I'm always going to think about how my actions and my words affect you as a person, because your feelings matter to me. But on the other end, if you don't feel and live the same way, and not just with me, because it's going to piss me off if I see you treating someone else badly as well. So this has to be who you are as a person, not just with me because you like me, you think I'm cute or anything like that. You get what I'm saying? And a lot of people just don't move that way. And I can't operate like that. I can't be in a relationship with someone I'm constantly thinking about your feelings, trying to rearrange, the way I say things and how I do things to make you comfortable. And you just like the hell with you. And that's just how the world is nowadays. Everybody's selfish. Everybody's me first. To hell with you. And it's just sad.
Yep. Yep. I agree. That's why that's good that you do that though. That that you ask those questions though, because it kind of allows you to really, you can kind of gauge. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you're vetting. You know what I mean? You can kind of gauge how a man will respond to that question. But it's yeah, it's a shame. It's just it's a shame that how society kind of is like now with the Instagram and everything. Sorry, my buddy John coming in, so he says, straight up, Nichole, character is key in any relationship that wants to mature and be healthy, especially needed in marriage, since you need to grow for the long term. And I know John knows too, because John's married and I think John's got 2 kids. Good point, John.
Shout out to Josh. Shout out to John.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nichole. Thank you for your you like even your questions. It's a lot of things that you're teaching people right now to look out for when it comes to partners and for even people who have partners. Like, are we as men being attentive to their needs? Are they doing the dance? Are they doing the Macarena for us and we not doing nothing? So yo, I gotta dip out, but I appreciate hearing everybody tonight. I just want to say thank you, Steve, for letting me come on. I appreciate you. I appreciate you too, Nichole. I really had a really good time hearing your perspective and hearing everything that you brought to the table. Very valuable.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, Rich. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for taking the time to come on tonight, man. It genuinely means a lot.
Hey, peace out, y'all. Take care.
Thanks.
Go on, brother. And there were 2. Just playing.
Yeah. They abandoned us.
No, we can wrap up shortly too. I'll read some comments, but it's been a good discussion tonight. I feel like we could probably have done like even a whole another hour to this, like on this, because we had a whole discussion. But these are important discussions to have.
Yeah.
John said, "I do. It's a sad thing that there are many men out there who do not have fathers and who showed them how to build. Who do not have fathers who showed them how to build endurance in their character." How to have self-respect for themselves and others. Very true. Very true. It's it's a shame, and vice versa. It's you see men and women both. Both ways of it, but like Josh said, lack of self-discipline, lack of self-worth, and that's the thing too, self-worth too, and your self-esteem, because those men, like you said, like in the workplace and stuff, like it's comes off as like I can, like they think, what I essentially see it as a mask. If you had self-discipline and self-worth, if you felt good about yourself, you're not going to walk around doing those types of things either. People think like, oh, look at me, I'm a player, like look at I'm gonna do this, but it's like, really, it kind of shows not just lack of self-discipline, but I would say it shows lack of, low self-esteem too. Because most, men who are confident in themselves aren't going to do that.
I agree. And people don't really talk about the downside of being a player, right?
Yeah.
So it's fun, especially when you're young, right? You got all these women, all this attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you get older, even when you're young, right? So then there's the animosity there's a strife if you're cheating, right? There's a strife, constant strife between you and your girlfriend. We feel energy, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, whether we're in tune with it or not. Your girlfriend knows when you're cheating. Whether you think she don't, whether she thinks she doesn't, she knows when you're cheating. So then that caused that issue. Then you have multiple women. Now they're beefing with each other. You might get an STD. You might be scared of getting an STD. Now that you done gave it to your pregnant girlfriend, or you done got somebody else pregnant. Now you got a baby coming home. And there's this constant strife, looking behind your back, looking on your phone, right? So now you're going through the years, child support, different baby mamas, right? And this is a continued cycle of headache and drama, right? So now you done played all these games. Now you're 55 years old. And now you got ED, and now you got kids all over the place, grandkids, and you know what I mean? And now your girlfriend that done stayed with you while you were cheating on her all these years, now she's abusing you. Yep. Now she's abusing. Now you're older. Let's get even older. Now you're 70 and you got this girlfriend you've been cheating on. Now she's abusing you because where you gonna go? She remembers everything that you did to her. And I'm giving this as an example because this is what my grandfather did. And his wife used to let him sit in his own Pampers for a very long time. And she would go off and go with her ex-husband while he was sitting in his Pampers because she remembered all the times that he was cheating on her, leaving on her, abusing her, and everything else. So he got all of that back as he got older, right? And his daughter, who he abandoned, he was estranged from. So these things come with consequences. Like, we can't just keep thinking that we're going to go around breaking people's hearts, playing these games, abandoning these kids, and not being in their lives full time, because you got broken homes, right? So you can't be in all these kids' lives, right? They comes with consequences, and the consequences aren't talked about. Just the fun part.
Yeah, people don't forget. You know what I mean? When you treat people badly, people don't forget about those types of things. You know what I mean? It all comes full circle at some point. You know, it's all going to come back around. Like you said, actions have consequences. You know, it all comes back around. John said, honestly, it's easier to build character if one puts themselves in other shoes and rules by serving, you show others how to serve and how to love. And he said, why be a player when you could be building a community by serving and building up your kids to create a community of love and support? You want the change, it starts with you, player. That's a good point. I like that at the end there. Yeah, be the change you want to see. You know what I mean? It starts, we might not seem like we're making a difference, but it starts with just you start what you can control, you making the impact on other people to make that change. But it's like, there you go. You're 55 years old and now you're getting abused. It all came back around full circle. It all came back around full circle now because that's the thing too. Like, sometimes people like this too, right? This isn't marriages, relationships. People go, oh, well, well, my man's an asshole, or like my woman's a bitch. Like, you know what I mean? People say, okay, well, it's like, have you looked at your actions lately? Like, how you treat them too? Because a lot of times our actions are how we treat other people. I know we take accountability for ourselves, but I'm just saying, like, how we treat people sometimes, it kind of rubs off, right? If you're say if a man is like treating his woman, like shit, she might act more bitchy. It's like if a woman's like treating her man with disrespect, he could be more of an asshole, or that could be kind of, you know what I mean? It's just we teach people not only we teach people how to treat us too. Like, we say that with boundaries, but we also say that with love too. Like, if you're not being like a great partner yourself, maybe that's the reason why that person's that's the reason why that person's acted like that. So sometimes you have to kind of look inward too,
Yeah. Sure. And nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do that nowadays. No. It's always the other person. Always the other person. They never think, like, what is it about me that might be triggering that person, or what can I do to make things better? Now, if you have exhausted all options, and you've done everything that you can do to make the situation better, that's something different. But if it's always the other person,
right,
it's time to have a little bit of a reality check.
Exactly. That's why we need more self-reflection. We need more accountability. Like you said, I'm not harboring. I'm not saying it's okay to be in an abusive relationship, because you could be a great partner, but you're really showing up for that person. The person could still be being extremely disrespectful to you. That's how you know that there's a difference there. You know what I mean? That's different. But if you start to look inward and you're, what's that?
No, I was saying, I agree. I don't do like any kind of abuse. I don't do like verbal abuse. I don't do mental, emotional, financial, physical, none of that. Yes, there's levels to it. I don't do none of it. Because it's really not that hard of a thing to do. If I can respect you, you can respect me. Right? If that means you have to walk away, it's you're too angry to talk to me in a respectful way, then it's time to walk away. And don't get me wrong, I understand, like, people have bad days, right? But if I bring it to your attention, I say, hey, babe, maybe it's not the time to talk right now. I don't really like the way that you're talking to me. You're yelling at me. If we can't bring it down, if we can't, talk like normal, there's a difference between yelling to me and yelling at me. If I address it and I tell you in that moment that is bothering me or it's upsetting me, and you still continue with that, and vice versa. If he comes to me and say, babe, I don't really like your tone right now, and I keep going because I don't care how he feels, I feel like that's disrespectful. You know what I mean? So just the calling people out their name, calling them the B word, none of that.
Exactly.
Lying, cheating, all of that is super abusive, manipulating,
gaslighting, any of that stuff. Yeah, it's just
no.
That's
I go through enough.
It's
I go through enough. Okay.
Yeah, it's complete disrespect for your partner. Like you said, that's another critical thing too. When people get married too, understand how people handle conflict resolution. That's very important too, because if your idea of conflict resolution is screaming and shouting, calling people out their name, that's really unhealthy behavior. That might not be somebody you're really looking forward to marrying. You know what I mean? You really have to understand how people resolve conflict, which is important too. Mary said, "No one takes accountability anymore. Easy to point the finger." Yes, sir. It's very true. Josh said, yes, like a mask. Yep. We got some comments from John here. He says, some wisdom from the good book. Where there is no wood, a fire goes out. And where there is no gossip, contention ceases. Like charcoal is to burning coals. That's a good point.
That Proverbs.
You put it right here. You already had it. He said it. So, wood to fire. Proverbs. I got some quotes from Proverbs that I really like. I love. Proverbs.
I just remember the other day I told you before I went to bed I was going to read my Bible, and I ended up reading Proverbs 5, chapter 5. Just funny. I haven't gotten to 26 yet.
I love Proverbs. And wood to fire, so a contentious person to kindle strife. The words of gossip are like delicious morsels. They go down into a person's innermost being. Proverbs 26:20-22. And then he said, don't be the coal to the fire by retaliating and attacking their character. Be accountable for your own actions only. Agreed. Yeah. Don't let people's negative energy rub off onto you.
Yeah.
We can't control other people's actions, but we can be the change we want to see, right? So we just have to be accountable. We have to lead by example sometimes. Be accountable for our actions.
Yeah. And learning tact. And just good better communication skills. It doesn't matter, and humility, right? So it doesn't matter how well or how good you think you are at communicating. You can always be better.
Yes.
And starting when you're upset, starting with your concerns with an I and making it an internal, instead of saying you, which seems like accusatory. You never do this. You never do that. You irritate me. Saying, I really don't like when you do that. That really hurt my feelings when you did that the other day. Due to, trauma in my past, it really hurts me when you, reference those things or whatever the case may have you. But little things like that make a huge difference.
Exactly. It's less triggering to hear I feel statements versus like coming off as accusatory. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It allows for a lot much more effective conversation. I agree with you. You can always be better at communication. I'm someone at 32 years old learning how to be a better communicator. Sometimes you don't always learn it in the household too. That's a thing too. You know what I mean? You have to understand how you were kind of raised and like what environment you were in, which is important because it's like if you grew up in a very dismissive environment, you may have been told not to voice, certain things or, not. So you kind of learn not to communicate properly, So sometimes we have to kind of rewire our thoughts, like rewire how we process certain things or rewire how we communicate.
For sure. And then understand that it's going to take work because the way men communicate and the way women communicate are totally different.
Yep.
And sometimes we translate that as the way you're communicating is wrong. You're wrong and I'm right. And sometimes I think we had this conversation that sometimes we're saying the exact same thing. There's been so many times where I heard my mom and dad arguing and they were literally saying the exact same thing to each other, but she was seeing it as a 9 and he was seeing it as a 6. And it just kind of goes in a loop. So just kind of being patient and not attacking each other. and working towards, getting better communication. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of emotional work.
It is. It's a lot. Like you said, we speak to different languages sometimes, but
yeah,
that's why we have to be more compassionate and try to be more understanding with one another for sure. Because it's, it's a barrier how men talk to their boys versus, like how they talk to, their wife or their girlfriend. It's going to be, you know what I mean? It just could be a lot different because it's like you said, different languages.
Yeah.
But through compassion, understanding, learning to communicate, you get better at it.
Yeah. There's it's 2 books actually. It was written by 2 books written by a husband and a wife, and they did a lot of studies. And they kind of recognize the barrier between men and women in our communication and how we see things and, what we feel and just kind of how we're internally wired. Is called For Him and For Her. So for him is about, women's makeup and how our brains are wired and, why we think or feel certain ways and what's important to us. And I just really think they did a very good job at kind of like encapsulating a lot of issues that men and women have in relationships due to communication and just because our makeup and how we're different. They gave an example of they went to a school and there was men on one side, of course, women on the other side. And there was a big thing about what was more important? Is love more important or respect more important? And of course, both sides were extremely blown away when, of course, the men said the respect was more important and the women said the love was more important. And they were just like, and that doesn't mean that either one was wrong. That's just because we're wired differently.
Yeah.
But if you're in that mindset of men should think that love is at the top and it is wrong that they don't, or vice versa, that's when the problem comes in. Instead of accepting our makeup and the way that we are and that we're not the same and then working along with that.
Yep. I would not be shocked to have heard that the men said respect and the women said love. My what I would pose to that was I would just say my belief is without respect there's not love. Mm-hmm. So I think respect, and love, they kind of go hand in hand. So it's like without that, love kind of follows. I think without respect, there's not love. You don't respect somebody. It's just, respect is really important. But like love kind of, if you love somebody, you will respect them,
Yeah.
So they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So. This was a good stream, though. I would love to kind of do another one on this too. I just want to. We were an hour and 37 minutes in, so I guess I'll get ready to kind of wrap up. Do you have any? Well, before I do though, do you have anything you want to add to anything else here? You might have saw. I'm not sure.
No, we'll be here for 5 hours. We'll be here for 5 hours unless somebody in the comments has a question.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me. So if people watch on YouTube, let me see. The Facebook groups, just make sure nothing other comments go through. I think I covered all those ones. Yep, on that page, and I have the other Facebook one, so it's. Let's see if there's anything on there. Okay, no comments on that one. The other one was just the one that had all the comments. Yeah, I don't see any. I think John commented one more thing. He said, "You want to have a loving relationship and be known, be gracious and patient with the other person." And do the same for yourself. All-nighter, baby. Great point. And Mario said, great show. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, John. Appreciate you, Mario. George, Fran, Josh. Yeah, I think that was everybody commenting in. Again, Rich, Kandyce, everybody for coming on. And Nichole, thank you for taking the time out of your night to come on here. I think this is a great episode, and I think even people who watch the rebroadcast, they're going to get a lot from it. So I appreciate you coming on with Kandyce to share your perspective tonight.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. I'll definitely keep you in mind for some future episodes too, like that I think that you might like. So, appreciate that.
Sounds good. Now I'm about to go to bed. I am exhausted.
Likewise, it's been an early day, so about to turn in myself, but
we old.
Yeah, we getting old.
Once you hit that 30 mark,
exactly.
Bedtime is at 9 o'clock.
I know. So a lot of times I want to go to bed at like 12. I need to get but then like some days when it's an early day, you just my body can't last that long. So I just gotta be knocked out. But John said have a good night. Awesome people. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks again, Nichole. Thank you to everybody who watched and tuned in tonight. Guys, we'll be back next week for episode 207. Matt Lee's coming back in, certified fitness coach. We're going to talk about the summer shred, getting you in shape for summer. Should be a good episode. But thanks again, Nichole. Appreciate you. And,
no problem. Thank you.
Have a great night.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.